If you want a watch to romanticize over, few options are better than a mechanical watch observing that mesmerizing smooth secondhand sweep that really takes you back to a time predating many digital innovations that we have today. However, on the inverse, if you want a watch to keep up with you in your day-to-day life, help you keep track of your everyday activities while keeping you informed and in the loop of what's going on the internet as well as with your friends, it's hard to beat something like a smartwatch that has connectivity and, tons of features that arguably rival many computers today, that are arguably just as good as many smartphones in our pockets today. But what if you want a watch that is just simple, accurate, easy to read, has a few functions to help you with certain tasks, but doesn't bombard you with notifications and keeping your attention on the hook? What if you want to be in control of your time, and what if you want to train for a triathlon? Well, that's exactly what the Timex Ironman Triathalon has been doing for years. A simple, no-nonsense digital watch built for athleticism, the Timex Ironman Triathalon is everything you could want and more for a watch to get you through your next workout. So many people think of Casio and G-Shock when it comes to digital watches because G-Shock's kind of unanimous with being absolutely durable and unbreakable and packed full of features, and it absolutely is, but a lot of people do tend to overlook that Timex has been making some great digital watches for some time, including this Timex Ironman to those who aren't as in the know. So the Timex Ironman has a huge emphasis on sporting and athletic activity. Obviously, the Ironman in the name doesn't reference the wildly popular Marvel character, RIP F in the chat for our boy Tony. But it obviously represents the triathlon, which is a series of a multi-sport race of swimming, cycling, and running over various distances. And this watch in particular has some key features that really help people train for that, but also I think because of its features really makes a fantastic everyday kind of physical activity watch. Maybe you're a runner, maybe you whatever you do. I think this is a kind of no frills, no nonsense watch that really just gets the job done, is rooted in simplicity, and is great at what it does. And in a lot of ways it kind of precursors the Fitbit and the Apple Watch and all these very technological watches that we have today, which are great in their own right if that's what you want. But sometimes you don't want to be connected to the outside world. Sometimes you don't want notifications constantly bombarding you, and this kind of strips away all of that to its purest form, gives you the function you need and not all the stuff that you don't. Sometimes less is more. So taking a look at the specs, this is the Timex Ironman Classic 30 full size with a 38mm diameter, 12.7mm thickness, and a 16mm lug width, although it does have an integrated strap, so take with that what you will. 100 meters of water resistance, Indiglo technology that lights up the dial, stopwatch and timer features, purpose-built for the triathlon, clearly, alarms, set for daily, weekly, and weekend, as well as a couple of other cool features, which we'll get into in a bit. So taking a look at the dial and design of this watch, we can see that it is very, very simple and clean in its design. There isn't too much to distract you. It has the time, it has the date, it has the day. It can have an indicator for an alarm if you have an alarm set, etc. So you want a very, very simple and clean dial, say if you're on a run, right? You want to be able to read, obviously, what the time is or what the time of your lap is, and you want to be able to do so quickly. So very little excess information that you really don't need. And speaking of kind of doing things quickly, the button layout is absolutely amazingly purposely built. I love how they're very, very large, unlike some G-Shock buttons, which aren't as large, a little bit more recessed, and tiny little kind of metal pushers that you really got to dig your hand into. These are just outside on the case and just very, very easy to access. There are some G-Shocks like the G-Shock XL, which are very, very easy to access just like this, but overall I just really love the simplicity of this layout, both from the dial and case perspective. Now speaking of the case is made of resin, which is very, very lightweight and comfortable. This watch comes at just 23 grams or 0.8 ounces, less than an ounce in weight. So when you throw it on your wrist, it just absolutely disappears. G-Shocks are also relatively lightweight, although, for example, the G-Shock DW5600, which is one of these sort of tried and true G-Shock models, comes in at over double the weight at 51 grams. So, but yeah, it can get a little bit sweaty, especially when it is humid. So, because of that, not absolutely amazing for workouts in terms of comfort, but definitely reliable, gets the job done. And if you're just wearing this, it just kind of feels like it's part of your arm. Speaking of arm, let's throw this on the wrist, give it a quick wrist check, see how it looks, and then we'll get into some of the features. Quick wrist check today. I'm wearing my Orient Komatsu. Absolutely love this thing. The red dial is just so rich. It almost borders on burgundy. and the against the black bezel is super awesome. I have it on a strap code Jubilee. We'll put the affiliate link in the description below. Full disclaimer, I get a small kickback, but don't feel obligated to use this link. Do some bargain hunting, check out for good deals, etc. This watch is awesome. I love it. 200 meters of water resistance, sapphire crystal. The hour marker layout is aggressive. Kind of reminds me of like the Seiko Sea Monster, but you know, because the Komatsu actually means barracuda in Japanese, so these are kind of like the teeth of the barracuda. But I digress. Back to the Ironman. So this is the Timex Ironman on my 6.5-inch wrist. As you can see, wears really, really well. 38 millimeters, it's a relatively small watch, but it doesn't wear small. It actually has a decent amount of wrist presence. It kind of feels like wearing, like I said, like a modern Fitbit, or actually an old Fitbit. Obviously, I guess is kind of what it is, but yeah, just disappears on the wrist. It feels like literally nothing's on my wrist. Now, one thing that I noticed, which is actually very interesting, is that at the keeper here, it actually has a little bit of a recession into the tongue. So if we take a look here, we can see there's this little hole inside the tail end of the strap, and it actually feeds into the keeper, which actually holds it in place, which I thought is a very, very clever touch, especially for a kind of sporty watch where you really want this thing kind of locked in. So taking a look at the button layout of this watch, we could see a start-stop button, which is the main button at the bottom, whereas on a G-Shock, for example, the main button would be the light up. I forgot what G-Shock calls it, but anyway, to light up the display, which, by the way, this watch does have on the top right. Not the best, not fantastic, and it needs to be kind of dark to be able to see. Timex calls it their Indiglo, and not the best Indiglo I've seen on a watch, but it does come in handy in very, very low light situations. But you can use this to actually start or split the time of, for example, a chronograph, which we'll show you in a little bit. So on the bottom left, you can actually flip through the modes. So we have a chronograph, we have a timer, we have an occasion, which is like different alarms for different things you can set. So for example, if you want to set a reminder for an appointment or for a birthday, you can set that here. Kind of cool, especially as this kind of predates smartwatches, where it might not have been as easy to keep track of things like that. Smartwatches weren't a thing then, is kind of what I'm trying to say. And of course, the simple time. So if you go to the chronograph function, you can use the start to actually press the button here. And I like that the layout is just so simple. Every button is super easy to use. And, you know, if you are practicing for the Ironman triathlon, you need something like that, where the buttons are very accessible and everything is legible while you're running the triathlon, while you're practicing, while you're training. Quick preview of the Indiglo here. As you can see, it works well. I'll show you a before and after. So this is with the Indiglo on, and then as you can see, it just shut off. So it definitely helps, especially in low light conditions. So here's how to use all the different functions. If you press the pusher on the bottom left, we could change to the chronograph mode. Now by pressing start split, we could start the chronograph. And if we press it again, we can set the time for a new lap. So you're recording the time for the first lap after pressing the button, but then you're checking the time for the next lap. So if I press it again, it'll record it, and it'll keep these in memory. Now if you want to stop the chronograph, you can obviously press stop, and then to start it from the beginning, you hold it down to reset it. So if we press the mode button to go to the timer, and we press stop or reset, and if you press set or recall, hold that down. Now keep holding it down and it'll let us set the timer. So the timer is a countdown, so it'll start from one time, keep counting down up until it reaches 0, and then it'll set off a sort of alarm. So over here, we can either move forward, so advance the time with this middle start split button. We can go to the next numeral with the mode button and then press it there, or we could go back, so go down with the stop reset button. And then when you're ready, you can set it and then start it by pressing the start split button. So when it counts down, beep, beep, beep. Now similarly, if you press mode again, we can go to an alarm, which can actually set an alarm at a specific time instead of a countdown. So you do this by holding down set recall. And now, just like setting the timer, you can actually go up, you can go down, or when you're ready to set it, you're good where it's at, you can press the set recall button. Now notice it says daily at the top. This is because you could set either daily, weekly, or weekend alarms. So you could set an alarm for every day, you could set an alarm for every single week, or you could set an alarm just on weekends. Perfect for the triathlon runner or practitioner who wants to practice on certain days but not on others. So despite being a rather old watch, it's an absolute classic. I mean, it's pure in its design and its intention. It does what it's intended to do, does so relatively affordably. These could be found for $40 or less sometimes. So I think for what you get, a pack full of features, quite awesome. Obviously it's competing with a lot of the kind of smartwatches out there these days, but in a lot of ways G-Shock, which are a little bit more indestructible, so a little bit more for the rugged and tough kind of bashes thing. They also do tend to have very, very similar features. G-Shocks also sometimes even have more features, but for those who are very purpose driven and you're maybe a runner and you want to track your laps or something like that, something like an Ironman is just distraction free. It has everything you need but nothing you don't. So I think it's still a fantastic watch and a very, very cool one, kind of rooted in history for how long it's been around, how long it's been doing what it's been doing. So I know this is a little bit of a break from traditional kind of mechanical watch talk that I usually do in this channel, but if you did enjoy this type of video and you do want to see more mostly mechanical watch reviews in the future, please leave a like on this video. Please subscribe to the channel for more to come, and if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time.